What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Down Once More. Matt here, and we are coming off an absolute high note with last week's episode. Rayleigh and I talked about Wicked Part 1, which if you're listening to this podcast and you haven't seen Wicked Part 1 yet, I'm shocked how you found us, because it is one of the best musical movie adaptations in a long time. And Rayleigh and I got into a lot of the nitty gritty with it. We got into the original Gregory Maguire novel that inspired Stephen Schwartz to create this monster Broadway hit that we have, which led to this beautifully directed movie from John M. Chu that's being split into two parts. And we also talked about some of what we're going to see in part 2. So as always, we throw time codes in the description of the episode on YouTube and all audio platforms. So if there's something you're not interested in, you can just skip ahead on that if you don't want to be spoiled for part 2, which I would highly encourage. If you're not familiar with the musical and you don't know where the story is going, don't get it spoiled for yourself. Go in blind next year. I know a year is a long time to wait, and if you're like me, I sometimes can't help myself. If I know spoilers are out there, I'm curious. My curiosity gets the best of me and my lack of self-control, and I just need to see what it is. That's why if there's a movie I'm really excited about, I go opening night, because otherwise I do not have the self-control to stay off social media, and my algorithm knows that I actually want to know what it says and just screws me and spoils it for me. So avoid spoilers for part 2 of Wicked if you can. Check out our episode from last week if you've seen the movie. A lot of fun on there. One of our longer review episodes in a while. But this week, it's the time of year where Spotify Wrapped, Apple Music Replay are dropping. And so I just wanted to take some time to go through what I've been listening to this year. I know that's what you all come to the pod to hear, is what music are you listening to, Matt? How can we improve our playlist? And also, just a shameless plug, if we showed up on anyone's Spotify Wrapped, one, I'll be shocked and super impressed, maybe a little concerned about you, because there are so many podcasts out there, and we would feel truly honored if we made it in your top 5 Spotify Wrapped. That would be impressive. But let us know. And then also in the comments, I want to see what you all's top song, top artist, top album of the years were. Drop them in the comments below. I want to discover some new music this year. I tend to get where I obsess over an album or an artist and will just run it into the ground. And it doesn't always turn out to be a bad thing where I burn myself out on it, but it's been known to happen in the past. And so the past few years, there's been a number of albums that I have just really latched onto, and it's jumped and skyrocketed to the top of my playlist. Last year, it was Be More Chill, specifically Michael in the Bathroom, a song from there. But that musical as a whole from Joey Conis, and just some fantastic performances from Michael Salazar, is just so good. Michael Salazar. I'm pretty sure it's George Salazar. It is. It's, fun fact, I am recording this at 5:30 a.m. on Tuesday. Pod drops tomorrow. I am going to see Wicked Part 1 again tonight. So taking the parents to see it, actually. And so I'm recording now. Actually, fun fact, this is actually the third time I've recorded this podcast, and I did not like either of them. And so we are here again, and I have no choice but to like this one, because I have to record and edit before work. So here we are. But as I was saying, last year, Be More Chill was the album that stood out to me and really grabbed me, and made a heavy rotation. And the year before that, and by last year I mean 2022, it was In the Light, Faustian Tale, the concept album from Michael Mott, kind of sampling of the musical that he was composing, writing, and that they actually had a workshop of over the past year. And so hopefully we see that get traction, because that's one of my favorite musical albums of all time. Just some fantastic performers on it with Jeremy Jordan, Antonio Cipriano, Sierra Renee, and more. It is fantastic. If you haven't listened to In the Light of Faustian Tale, go check it out. It's on Spotify, Apple Music, all that fun stuff. And they also have on the website for it, you can kind of fill in the gaps of the story, what takes place between the songs, and kind of familiarize yourself with the plot. So you're not just lost because there's no show for you to see, there's no movie to reference. But it is a beautiful musical album. So recommend people check that out. Right now, though, what I am obsessed with is Warriors, the concept album from Lin-Manuel Miranda and Eisa Davis. Actually, thankful to that, thanks to one of our listeners, Desar100 over on YouTube, on our Wicked review, commented and asked if we had checked that out. And it was something that completely slipped my mind. I had talked about on here when it was first announced that it was coming out, and I was intrigued by it. I'd never seen The Warriors, but just a classic movie. I really love this genre of movies that aren't musicals being adapted and turned into musicals. And I feel like a lot of times it is so successful, and I tend to like it more than the original movie. Waitress is a big example of it. The Sarah Bareilles musical, we've talked about it on here, just so beautiful. And the musical to me stands out, and I gravitate to that more than the Kerry Russell and Nathan Fillion starring movie, even though I love both Kerry Russell and Nathan Fillion. And then another one, Heathers, the musical. I love Heathers. We talked about in here a number of times. You can watch a filmed version of it, filmed in the West End on Roku. And the West End cast album is fantastic. Just a few songs that I absolutely love on there and are on constant rotation. It may have made my Wrapped a year or two ago as well, or my Apple Music replay. I'm an Apple Music guy. It's what it is. The quality is fantastic, and I just have Apple everything, and so it's so convenient and nice. But Freeze Your Brain, one of my favorite musical theater songs, Heathers. And then a song, because fun fact about Heathers, started kind of off Broadway, short run on Broadway, then moved over to the West End. And the West End, it got some kind of major reworks to it, switched up some songs. Some we talked about in our review. Some I like, some a little disappointed to lose some bits and pieces, but I get why they did it. So I Say No is a song that was written and added in when it was reworked on the West End. And it's one of the best songs on the album, in the musical, in my opinion. Just a fantastic musical theater song in general, and Carrie Hope Fletcher's performance of it on the cast album, so good. But Heather's actually coming back to New York, the reworked version. I believe in April is when it opens. I could be wrong, but we got some new musicals coming to well, not new, this was there before, but returning musicals to New York. We got that. And then new musical is Smash, which we've been talking on here, been doing a rewatch on that. Love the show. Megan Hilty, Catherine McPhee, Jeremy Jordan in season 2, Christian Borle, Deborah Messing. Just fantastic show. Streaming on Peacock. Well, fantastic show. Kind of cheesy, but if you're a musical fan, you will love it. But that musical opens up in March on Broadway. So lots of exciting stuff happening in the world of musicals. But the Warriors album, I've been obsessed with this for the past week now. It is so damn good, and we'll talk about it in a future episode. Either I will, or we'll get Rayleigh to listen to it, and we'll both discuss it. I love this album. I agree, Death Star, one of Lin-Manuel Miranda's best works in a long time. Him and Eisa Davis worked so well together, and one of the most varied concept albums and most varied works from LMM in a while. I love it, and fantastic cast with it. Got some heavy hitters. It is so good. But talk about that in depth. That's actually what I talked about in depth the 2 episodes that I scrapped. Fun fact for you, a little behind the scenes. But Apple Music Replay, my Apple Music 2024. I'm going to go through a couple of different ways here. I like how Apple Music breaks it down. You've got your comparisons to what your top songs were last year. You have your top 5. They also break it down by month, what your top album, top song was per month. And it's a little telling because when I'm doing the podcast, a lot of times when I either watch a movie, musical, or when I'm going to go see a musical live on national tour, if it's one I'm not as familiar with, I'll put those albums on rotation so I can familiarize myself with it before I go. We've discussed now on here, Brad and Rayleigh are a lot more, if the musical exists, I want to be able to see it before I listen to that album. I want my first time experiencing it to be how the creators had intended, which is on the stage, on the screen, which is fair. I respect that. I'm the opposite. I like going in knowing the songs. I've been to enough things where there's been a little bit of technical things, and sometimes it's hard to make out those lyrics, and you can miss some beautiful lines if you don't know what you're listening for. So I have mixed feelings about it, but I love musical albums. It is almost always my top genre of what I've listened to on my Apple Music replay. This year is no exception. But let's just get into it. My top albums by month, it was in January. It was Mean Girls, the musical, not the movie. That movie did everything wrong with the musical theater adaptation to screen, where they stripped almost all the musical theater elements of it. They did get Renee Rapp. That's the one thing that I felt like they did right. And I mean, really, their cast is fantastic for the most part. And I'm going to reset that. Renee Rapp, Jaquel Spivey, and Aliu Carvalho are fantastic in it. And they stand head and shoulders above the rest. Jaquel Spivey got a majority of their songs cut that existed in the musical theater version of it, because this movie favored more pop versions of the songs and stripping all the musical theater bits away from it. Did not want to embrace that it was a musical. The complete opposite of what Wicked did, where John M. Chu paid reverence to the stage musical. They incorporated everything. They don't cut any songs. They just expand on that lore, give it more room to breathe, expand the characters. Is beautiful what was done with that movie. Rayleigh and I harped on that a lot in last week's episode. But Mean Girls just stripped back of it. The actress they have playing Katie is just not nearly a talented enough singer. Like, talented, yes, but we're comparing to Renee Rapp, Aliu Carvalho, Jaquel Spivey, and the rest of the cast, even the other supporting actresses, the other plastics. It just doesn't hold a candle to it, and it causes things to fall flat. And they reworked the opening song in a way that doesn't really work as well for me, but I digress. But Mean Girls, the Broadway musical cast recording, was my most listened to album in January. And that was partially because I was seeing it live and the movie was coming out. And I just also really like that album. I talked about it last year on the pod as well. Great album. February was Jesus Christ Superstar. I saw that live this year as well on one of the national tours. And this was a movie I'd never really gotten into before. I didn't gravitate to it, but seeing it live just kind of unlocked something where I fell in love with the soundtrack. And there is a filmed tour version, I think I actually talked about it on here, where Tim Minchin plays Judas. I love Tim Minchin. And it is fantastic. And his portrayal, Judas's death song, so good. But Heaven on Their Minds, such a good opening number. If I remember right, it made it on the draft I did with Brad to best opening numbers. Love Jesus Christ Superstar. So good. And there's like 5 different versions of cast albums. I think the one I listened to most was the 1996 London cast recording album, something like that. In March, it was Matilda the musical. That was, Brad and I talked about the movie. It was one that I hadn't been familiar with at all until I watched the movie, listened to the musical, written by Tim Minchin. And I had that album on heavy rotation. And then April and May got the same album. And that's Next to Normal. Next to Normal was a musical that I discovered for myself about in April. And I discovered it from the song I Am the One with Aaron Fiat. Performed it, and I don't remember how I came across it originally. But then that whole album just really spoke to me, and I really latched onto it. So many songs on there, and just kind of the message that it's going through. Not a very upbeat musical by any stretch of the imagination, but it is telling an important story. It is about just kind of mental health and these struggles and how others perceive it and not really fully understanding, and the kind of desire or compulsion or not able to help yourself, kind of making it about yourself, thinking how it affects you. um, we get from the husband in it, and I don't know, I fell in love with this album. It was my top album 2 months in a row, and it may show up later in this ratings as well. I'm talking about the replay, but highly recommend checking it out and looking into some more of the story. It's not sung through, so you'll be able to kind of piece together the gist. But Wikipedia is helpful on things like that, where they have a summary of the story. And this is one that kind of had a revival on the West End this year as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see this make either a touring return or a Broadway return eventually. So in June, top album was The End. It was from Your Broken Hero, first album they put out. Matt Cutshall, who does the Emo's Not Dead videos, had started doing some actual songs and working with these emo pop punk legends, talents, and putting out music. That he's kind of built that network and that brand, the Emo's Not Dead brand. His Black Friday shopping there. But his album dropped. They did a Kickstarter for it, which I had backed, got shirt out of it. I've worn multiple times on here, actually. But this album, a lot of songs featuring people like Simple Plan, Under Oath. It is fantastic. That really hit home for me in June. July was The Death of Slim Shady, Eminem's new album. Check that out. August was The Great Gatsby, original Broadway cast recording, which talked about briefly on here, but Jeremy Jordan played Jay Gatsby, and just The Past Is Catching Up to Me and My Green Light just really stood out to me, and I had those on heavy rotation for a chunk of time this year. In September was The Outsiders, winning multiple awards. I'd never seen the movie, went and watched the movie to kind of get that framework, and then listen to music. Another one, we're talking about the movies that aren't musicals being adapted into musical. The Outsiders was a big one this year that kind of took over and was heavy out there for a lot of people. And I feel like another great adaptation from a movie to a musical. Back to the Future was one I saw on national tour, talked about, reviewed a few weeks ago on the pod, but weeks, months, whenever it was. So Outsiders was number one there in September. October, it was Cyrano, the album for that. Now, we've reviewed Cyrano on here. I actually really enjoy Cyrano. Has a beautiful score, and the orchestrations are fantastic, and just kind of a beautiful, heartbreaking story as well. The Cyrano album, a little fun fact for you, one of the best albums to just have on rotation for kind of like background noise while you work, because it sounds beautiful, and there are a lot more instrumental tracks on it than vocal tracks, and the vocal ones aren't like pop upbeat ones. They are going to be wanting to sing along. Don't get me wrong, Something to Say is a fantastic musical song, one of my favorites, and so I do enjoy singing that one in the shower, at the car, not at work because I'm a professional. But great album. Have on if you just need a little bit of background noise but not be too distracted while you're working. So good. In November, it was Wicked, Part 1. The album from that, Ariana Grande, Cynthia Erivo. That album really stood out to me. It was on rotation last month. And so now we're going to get into the songs, and then I'll just do my top 5 in general. So I'm going longer than I planned on this, and I still need to have time to edit before work. So, top songs by month. January was Ali's song from Lil Dicky, his album Peanut he released, that has the songs from the show Dave they created. That's kind of about his life, but also fictionalized, and Ali's song is one of the ones that really stood out to me. The music, the melody from it is in one of the best episodes of television, I think, in season 1, episode 9, Ali's Toast. Just an absolute beautiful, beautiful song and beautiful episode, which is Dave, the show Dave, about Lil Dicky on FX, is definitely not for everyone. It is a wild show, but Dave Bird, aka Lil Dicky, performance is so good. Andrew Santino's so good in it. Santino, I think it said Santino, so good in it. Gata, Lil Dicky's real life hype man in it, fantastic. Taylor Mishak plays Allie, so good. And her performance in Allie's Toast, one of the best, and so heartbreaking and emotional. And where it leads to in season 2 is Dave writing the song, Allie's song. And I was glad when we finally got on the album. I was having to rely on YouTube when I wanted to listen to it before, but it was my top song in January when that album dropped. I started listening to it heavily. February, kind of tied to albums, Heaven on Their Minds, fantastic song from Jesus Christ Superstar. Not much to say more about that. March, Who I'd Be from Shrek, the Broadway cast recording album with Brian Darcy James. When I saw this live, Nicholas Hambrook's performance, so powerful and made me fall in love with the song. I know nothing about the musical in general, and that song just really did it for me. April, May, and June are all songs from Next to Normal. April was I Am the One, the original song from that drew me to Next to Normal. And then May and June was the song I've Been, which is kind of a heartbreaking song at the point in the musical when Diana, played by Alice Ripley, is to the stage where she's kind of just feels hopeless and attempts to take her own life. And this is her husband dealing with the aftermath when he's cleaning it up and just kind of his feelings on it again. Kind of not completely seeing it from her perspective, but seeing about her just when she tried to leave me alone, I've been lost, abused, like all these things. It is a powerful and heartbreaking song, and it is so good. So top rotation, 2 months in a row. July, there's no song listed, which is interesting, but don't know why. Maybe none really stood out from the pack in July. August and September, another same song back-to-back months. As Past Is Catching Up to Me from the Great Gatsby album. Said Jeremy Jordan, powerful voice. One of my favorite vocalist performers there. Absolutely crushed it on this song, on this album. The musical as a whole had mixed reviews on Broadway, but this song, so good. So good. October was Someone to Say from Cyrano. Fantastic song, one of my favorites. And November was Jonathan Young's cover of Pink Pony Club. I love me a good genre-bending cover. And so rock version of Pink Pony Club, so good. Chapel Roan hit. Chapel Roan? I think pretty sure it's Chapel Roan. But Pink Pony Club, remixed by Jonathan Young. Do yourself a favor. Check it out. All right. Now the fun, just nitty gritty. My top artist, number 1, was Alice Ripley, because Alice Ripley played Diana on Next to Normal. Next to Normal was on heavy rotation this year. Kind of blew out the other artists out of the water with over 1,300 minutes. Listen to Alice Ripley, aka Next to Normal. Number 2 and 3 are Bryce Dessner and Aaron Dessner, who were composers for Cyrano, the album. And then 4th is the London Contemporary Orchestra, also from Cyrano, the album. Like I said, great background album to have on, so lots of play there. And then 5 was Aaron Fiat from the Next to Normal album as well. Aaron Fiat, fantastic. And probably a little bit of Moulin Rouge, the musical, helped feed into those numbers as well. The Broadway musical, Moulin Rouge, I like that album so much more than the movie. The movie has grown on me, though. Don't Tell Rayleigh, although I think I told Rayleigh. That was one of our most combative episodes because we both had very different opinions on the movie. But My top songs is where musicals truly dominated. And number one is Who I'd Be from Shrek the Musical with 119 plays, which probably a lot more than that because these things, fun fact, they only track full plays of the song beginning to end. There's a lot of times where either it's trail off notes, skip to the next song for no lag, or if I'm like, man, I was really feeling that, I wasn't vibing out to that as much as I should, rewind it back to the beginning and listen to it before it gets on to the next song. But Who I'd Be, number one. I think this song, there's sometimes just a musical theater song that really just grabs me. Last year, it was Michael in the Bathroom from Be More Chill. That spoke to me. Is just very powerful in the emotions and the story that song tells. Who I'd Be is another one, which I kind of feel weird talking about it because when I'm talking about all these things, I'm like, yeah, and then Shrek says this. It's like, what? It's Shrek. It seems weird to be talking about a heartfelt song, but it is truly also a heartbreaking song because you're having Shrek go through these emotions, kind of building out because the musical opens up like his parents talking about it's a big, bright, beautiful world out there, but not for you. And so like when they send him out on his own when he's 7, and that's the theme throughout here. Shrek hates people, goes off in a swamp, but as we know, ogres are like onions. They have layers. Shrek has layers. And this song is really when it starts unpacking some of those, where he is singing about kind of in a perfect world, an ideal world, who he could be. He could be a poet, a Viking, all of these things. He wants to reveal himself to the maiden he rescues and have them, lyrics from the song are, we stop and stare, we stand and stare, and speak of love, we share a kiss, he finds his destiny, has his happy ending, and it is just, but then it goes, but not for me, because he is having just these thoughts that he's not worthy of love, he's not worthy of having a happy ending, he's not worthy of having someone love him, someone want to be with him, having a friend, of being good enough for anything. Just these feelings of that's something I can never experience and that I am not worthy of. It's just heartbreaking, and it's such a good song. Brian Darcy James crushes it, and Nicholas Hambrick is absolutely on the Shrek, the tour that I think is still going on or getting close to wrapping up. Just introducing me to this song, so good, so good. So that was number one. And number two is I've Been from Next to Normal, kind of touched on there when it was top song of the month. Number three, I Am the One from Next to Normal as well. 4 is Allie's song, My Little Dickie there. And 5 is Michael in the Bathroom. It was 69 plays. Nice. But just making a recurrence this year, I still absolutely love that song. It did get overtaken by Who I'd Be and I've Been, definitely. But Michael in the Bathroom is still one that really connects with me. Also, it's my wife doesn't like the song, and so when we're in the car, it doesn't get played as much. It gets skipped. Sad. But that wraps up my top 5 songs. And so comparisons to my top albums. I'll do some top albums too. Next to Normal, number 1, 1100 minutes. Cyrano, number 2, 770 minutes. Hunchback of Notre Dame, the musical album, not the movie album. I talked about it on here a little bit. That Broadway musical album, I absolutely love. It expands on the story from the movie, and it is beautiful and just some fantastic songs and numbers in there. So good. Check it out if you haven't. 4, Jesus Christ Superstar, the 1996 London cast recording. And 5 is Jesus Christ Superstar, the version from NBC Live with John Legend as Jesus, but Sarah Bareilles as Mary is the reason that one made it on there, because her performances of I Don't Know How to Love Him, and whatever the big Mary number is on there. Sarah Bareilles absolutely crushes it, and so her versions of the songs were on heavy rotation. And I listened to a lot of different versions of this after seeing the stage musical and trying to find what I gravitated to, which one I wanted. My top genres: soundtrack, number one. About 90% of those musical soundtracks. Number two, musicals. 3, rock. 4, alternative. 5, hard rock. Fun fact. So just some little numbers and then we'll wrap it up. It's supposed to be a mini episode, and I still have to edit. Top album comparison: Next to Normal won out this year with 1,100 minutes. Be More Chill last year, 700 minutes. Top song: Who I'd Be, got 120 plays. Michael in the Bathroom had one out with 143 plays last year. Alice Ripley was top artist this year with a little over 1,300 minutes. George Salazar last year. Michael in the Bathroom performance 1,489 minutes. And obviously George Salazar's on other songs on the Be More Chill album. But just thought it was interesting. I like how Apple does the replay. They expanded on it more this year than they have in previous years. So that was really neat. But that's going to do it for this week's episode. Like I said, drop in your comments what your top album, top songs were, top artist, and share those with me. I'm going to check out you guys' suggestions. We will be talking about Warriors, the concept album from Lin-Manuel, Miranda, and Eisa Davis, eventually on here. So we like getting suggestions from you guys on things to check out, listen to, discuss. So drop those in the comments as well, and I want to listen to some new things and see what you guys got. So as always, thank you all for sticking with us. We're getting towards the end of 2024 here. Those of you who have joined the pod, our network, watching, listening, supporting, really appreciate it. Thank you all. Love you all. Those who have been with us since the beginning, or at least early on, you guys rock. Really appreciate it. And we'll see what 2025 has in store for the pod. So make sure to stay tuned. Enjoy. We're getting into the holiday season. Make sure you enjoy. Take some time for yourself. Enjoy time with family. That's what you do. But don't let yourself get too burnt out. That is really easy to do this time of year, or to get overwhelmed by family and just shoot yourself in the foot. So don't do those things. Take a break. Take some breaths. Listen to some music, find your happy place. Happy Gilmore 2 should be coming out in 2025 as well. Fun fact. And then, most importantly, actually, don't forget to go down once more. Later.